director, co-founder of one of the city's premier basketball tournaments. All right, it's a signature event for the summer. All right, brings in a lot of people, a lot of high-profile players, a lot of city people are around. All right, helps aid the Danny Rumph Foundation. So we're gonna talk a little bit about how all this started and where we are today. And by the way, a great acknowledgement today. All right, they are celebrating 20 years of this classic. Y'all don't know, that's a long time. 20 years is a long time. And I know it's been a ton of work, but I know he's busy. 3 days away, mind you. 3 days away. So he took time out of his busy schedule to come and sit with me and talk for a little bit. So we're gonna have some fun. All right, I'm gonna let him get this hour, let things go for a little bit, have a little bit of fun, relax a little bit. Then I know as soon as he leaves, he's probably gonna be right back to work anyway. So we'll get to that. But anyway, like I said, you see him in the camera. If you tune in, you can ask questions all along the way. Again, at SportsRap CEO is where we are live. If you are still at work or you're driving around in your car, we don't want you to watch the video. We want you to get where you're going safe. Tune in, all right? Heat100radio.airtime.pro is where you can get the audio, okay? And if you miss all of this, don't worry. As I do, audio will go up tomorrow, Wednesday at the latest. Video will be up on YouTube Tuesday or Wednesday at the latest. So like I said, got Mike Morak here with me, all right? Event director of the Daniel Rumph II.
Yep.
Daniel Rumph II Classic. Like I said, 20 years in the making, all right? Now, going back, this all started with some friends. Mike, Justin, Sharif, Justin Scott, I'm gonna get their full names. Sharif Bray, Sharif Hanford, and Brandon Hull. All right, along with Mike and Danny. Basketball friends. Something happened tragically, and it touched all of these guys. And being the friends that they were, they wanted to make sure that their friend's name lived on. So what other way for them to do it than what brought them all together? We all love basketball. He loved basketball. Let's do something basketball related to honor our friend and keep his name alive. So if you don't know, if you're from the city and you have been living under a rock, Mallory Recreation Center has been long time renamed the Daniel Rumph Recreation Center in honor of him as well. Also created the Daniel Rumph Foundation, donating automatic defibrillators to rec centers around the city. So it's not just basketball. It's basketball for/with a cause, I would say. Right? So let's go back a little bit, Mike. Back to when you guys actually began talking about doing something. How did that conversation actually start?
Yeah. No, first, I just appreciate you following up and having me here. It means a lot when other people look at what we're doing and say like, man, I would like to highlight that. So thank you very
Absolutely.
much.
No problem.
I think when it first started, so when Danny passed, his mom and his uncle started the foundation, and then I was lucky enough to be the representation for our age group on the board, and then me and the guys, what can we do to keep his name around, and not only that, but how do we stay together? Right. So that was one of the things we were like, we know how to do basketball events, and we love to play basketball. We were all about 22, probably 21 to 23 at the time. I was working with a brand called And One as like an intern, so I knew that I wanted to work in sports as a profession. So talking to the guys over there, shout out to a gentleman named Chris Hightower who used to run the And One mixtape tour. Chris was like, I'll take care of the t-shirts for you the very first year. Okay. So for me, it was like we already had a gym, we had the t-shirts, and the sole purpose was to bring the basketball community together. A lot of us, obviously, being that young, we were still playing in college. Some of us had just graduated. Hakeem Skinny Warwick had just been drafted to the NBA. And we had other generations just finishing up overseas careers, like Michael Jordan, who was from the neighborhood, Antoine Brockington, who played at Coppin State and played overseas for a long time. So Danny's uncles and his father were really good basketball players in the Germantown area. So his generation, they already, hang out every Sunday up there. They still play basketball.
Right. Yeah, I saw that video earlier today.
Yeah, so like
those guys,
it's ingrained in us to be around the game of basketball. So to be a little bit of the organizer and the glue, it was natural that we all still wanted to play, we still wanted to compete, and it was a way for us to all kind of stay together. So when that first year was like, can we raise $3,200 to pay for a defibrillator to put in, to start raising money to specifically for defibrillators, and we tried to chip away at, one at a time. Right. Which helped lead to some awareness where the fire department, due to some of our work, ended up taking care of all the parks and recreation centers a couple of years later, providing, I think it was like 171 rec centers with defibrillators. So like when it started, it was just us knowing that we love to play basketball. We thought we knew we could do it, and we had a lot of support. One of the greatest coaches in Philadelphia history, Bill Ellerby, helped pay for one of the teams. One of the guys that kept us together as Coach Calvin Lewis, helped, be one of our first sponsors. So it was very simple at that time. It was just about us coming together and playing, and naturally we were some of the best players in the city. And, we've had lifelong battles with Finley Playground, Simon's Playground, Alney Recreation Center. So there was always a ton of talent up there.
Right.
So I think that's one of the things I always like to point out is like we've had a lot of really great players since day one.
Yeah. So like if you guys, if anybody tuned in, if you don't understand, if you don't relate to this, then I'm gonna tell you to step out and wait till you see the first touch, because what he just mentioned is Philadelphia basketball, I guess, at its best. Like he just mentioned Mallory, and you get competition with Finley, then he comes down to Alney, and then you go down to the Hank Gathers. But like he mentioned, the most important part was it was so much talent in and around the city, right? So the competitiveness, it kind of gets engraved in you. If you play and you love the game, it's going to get in you. So with that, just a little bit further back, when did you realize that you were falling in love with the game of basketball?
It's a great question. I think since the first time I touched a basketball, I think if you talk to anybody that I went to elementary school with, if you talk to anybody and my mom and dad about how much I would be in the backyard playing and across the street with all the kids that lived on my block, and we would just play basketball and walk into the different playgrounds and rec centers and in like walking distance. And, I think just going to shoot the ball, I always really enjoyed. And I still remember my father telling me one time, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Like, I don't know how far this is going to take you. And I never really blinked at that question. Now, I didn't make it as far professionally as I wanted to. I didn't make it at all professionally. But what I did do, I was a Philadelphia All-Catholic. I ended up playing basketball in college. I take a lot of pride of being a Division III basketball player. There's a lot of great players that play Division III. Yeah, D2.
4 year.
There's a lot of good players around the world. I didn't realize how many people at the time were playing, because when I was growing up playing basketball, you didn't play AAU. There wasn't the only people that traveled to play basketball were really, really, really good.
Yep.
So going to play at Mallory and Sixers neighborhood basketball leagues, Positive Image, Sunny Hill, all those games were dogfights, and every team had a lot of talent in it. Yep. So I think never even thought about like, man, I got to go here to travel. I got to here, because like those games were really good. So that the Hunting Park Warriors, John Harnett, Positive Image, like those teams that traveled were just like chock full of Division I NBA players that you never even thought about. Like those kids you knew were just better than you. Yeah. So I think for me, it was like I just always knew that I loved to be around the game. I think that, Mallory, the guys up there, Leroy Berry, who used to run the rec center, Sharif Bray's dad, Dr. Bray, Mr. Russell, there's a gentleman still that's coaching my son now named Paul Jordan that's been up there since I was a kid.
Yeah, folks, we are talking Philly basketball history right now. So y'all getting a history lesson. Y'all gonna learn about the Rumph Classic, but y'all getting some history too, all right?
No, there was so many guys out there that fostered such a good relationship. And again, Coach Calvin Lewis, who, made sure that all of us always had a team to play on in whatever league was going on. And we would always be really good as a unit. So I think like being able to do workouts, and I didn't know what ref fee was until I was probably 22. So he always gave us that energy of like stick together, get better, and enjoy the game of basketball. And they did a great job keeping us all together. So, the kids that I'm around, my friends today, and that helped me run the Rumph or come to the Rumph, are still the same guys we were playing with at 12 years old. So
cool. Yeah, that's a good, that's a great thing. Like I said, basketball or sports in general, but since we're here, we're talking basketball. Basketball is like a great bond. When I was coaching, and even to this day, every so often on my podcast right today, I talk to the youth, and I tell the youth, listen, you can play basketball, but at some point, your brain is going to say, yeah, go ahead and do it. But your body's going to tell you, listen here, you need to sit down for a minute. You need to find another segue into this. But I always tell them, keep that door open, because basketball is a vessel, a vehicle. You can play, but it can also take you so many places and drive you in so many other directions to stay around and attached to the game. Living proof sitting right here with me, 20 years in. You see it. It can be done. It can happen, right?
I've traveled the world with the game of basketball, and the vehicle is real. And it's, I met a lot of great people. I don't think you can drive me anywhere on this planet, and I don't know somebody within 30 minutes that's associated through the game of basketball. So it's been very good to me.
Yeah. So I'm sure you saw the text message, the one message. And as we get through some of this stuff, we're going to find out we know a lot of the same people. It's crazy. Now, I'm not going to say crazy. It's funny because some people just don't understand. In the city of Philadelphia, it's big, but it's still small. And like you said, if you can play a little bit, people will recognize it. And you're just going to get friends here, you're going to get friends there. And then as you branch out, it's just going to grow. So this tree, we could actually say this Philly basketball tree is like a city in itself, if you will. With going back as far as you going back 20 years. I'm 50 plus, so as far as I'm going back, like I'm going back to playing against Lionel Simmons in high school. So, like you said, the talent, and now that tree is like full bloom. So that tree could actually be like its own city, if you will. So this is great stuff. So when you started the Classic, and I'm jumping around a little bit, I had these in order. So was there any thought that it would be this big?
It's funny, me and Sharif Hammer talk about it, because he will answer no, and maybe I'll answer no when it very first started, because it wasn't about being really big. But I think as the years progressed, my thought and event competitiveness was always like, I think we could get really big and do a good job at running an event, as I was building other like summer basketball properties around the country, which I was doing for a job. So when I was building different things and just seeing how to run events and how to do different things from just an event perspective, I was like, man, I think we want to make sure that Philly has the same thing. Right. So I think when we first started, I had no idea that we would be able to keep doing it this long, because we always looked at it in like 5-year increments. Like when you start, it's like, man, it'd be really cool to get to 5, really cool to get to 10. Like, can we get to 15? And now the next big milestone is actually next year is 21, because he passed away when he was 21. So to be able to do it as long as he's been alive is something really, really special to us.
See that? I'm premature. I thought this one was special. But we could have 2. A little bit more special.
Now, two decades of doing anything is really special.
But I really like that idea, and I never would have thought of that, even though I did the homework and I knew that fact you just made. But that's great. So I'm sure, like we were just joking coming in the room, I'm sure, no worries from me. I'm sure you guys will be able to pull that off without any issues at all. So if you had to say something what would you say you think might be the biggest impact of the Classic on the city?
I think the biggest impact is seeing how many people come together to make it special. And I think the event is really special to a lot of people. I think it's really special to the close-knit group, the foundation. I think there's a layer outside of that Danny meant a lot to, or the people that Danny meant a lot to. And then there's a lot of people that next to all of us that know how much this means to them. So now it means a lot to them. And I think the ecosystem has built. So, people from politicians, shout out to Councilman Isaiah Thomas, Senator Vincent Hughes, even Council President Kenyatta Johnson, like guys that also come in and engage and support us outside of the physical tournament, but they know how much it means to the city and to us. So there's always like a lot of support there to make sure that, we can do what we need to do to be able to even do the event. So I think that the biggest thing that I look at is like how many volunteers we have, how many people come that help elevate the event, and then even how many people that are the coaches of the teams and the guys that are supporting the team, and being able to go out to people and say, man, this is a great event. Bring your kids out here, bring your cousins. So I think what I think is also special and what the impact is like how many people are able to come together and spend 5 days together, that's what's a lot of fun. I mean, I call it the Philadelphia basketball barbecue. Because it's just one long vacation. It's a lot of time, but it's the time that we all know we can spend together. Life can get busy on you, so that's where I think the biggest impact
life
is.
can be life in a lot.
Yeah, outside of the fun moments, like being able to, I tell people it's one of the best 3 basketball events in the world. So there's a couple different events overseas. There's 2 events in the country. I like the Drew League in LA. I think Dykeman in New York. There's a couple other great leagues in New York, but I think when you're looking at basketball and event energy, I think we do a great job as a city as showing people what it means to be a Philadelphia basketball player, what it means to be a Philadelphia basketball fan, and then being able to show that visually and give that energy if you step on the court. I mean, that's why, Marcus and Marquise Morris, who have been unbelievable supporters since day one.
Yeah, shout out to the Twins.
Shout out to the Twins. People don't realize like how much they love Philly and how much they support Philly, and they long ago told me whatever is moving in Philly, I want to be a part of it. And that's who they are. They're Philly born and bred.
Absolutely.
But I think that's what makes Jason Tatum want to come here and play. That's what makes James Harden be like, oh, I love that type of stuff. I want to come play. Even John Wall to come up. I want that. Like Lou Williams has come in and out for a couple years, and even Allen Iverson walked in there and was like, man, I didn't know I was moving like this. Like
I was there for that Iverson, and it's so funny. When you talk about the year Allen Iverson was there, because you already had the energy. The energy was there already. And then it's like the energy shifted, but it didn't completely shift. So it shifted to Bubba Chuck, AI's in the building. But as I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm just kind of weird like this. So I even watch basketball games now on mute. So we can talk about basketball. So I watch them on mute. But I'm sitting there, I'm in that coming in LaSalle, going on the left side to that far corner. That's where I'm sitting up in the top. And he's sitting on that baseline under there. So I'm just watching. But I'm also listening, and I'm hearing, like I said, there was an energy shift from him coming in the door all the way to his seat. But it didn't take away the entire energy of the event, which I thought was amazing. Because when you think about it, or for face value, for people that don't know, you look at that, if you were to see that on tape, and you're like, AI's walking in, and there's still people like up there focused on the game. Like, what is wrong with them? It is something that people outside of Philly, I strongly believe, won't understand until they're immersed in it. I've been other places playing ball, and I've been other places talking to people, and knowing people from other places talking about summer leagues there and summer leagues here. And they're like, yo, you came to Philly, and it was like you said, it was a party with a basketball game. Not even it was a basketball game with a party. It's a party with a basketball game. But now you know that's Philly.
Yeah,
that's that love and that energy, but we just can't help it.
And he, like I got a chance to walk him in, and he also appreciated not being the center of attention. Being like, man, I didn't realize what was going on in here, and to know who else was there. Like Joel is sitting down the way, Coach of the Sixers is there, James is playing, and to be able to be like, all right, I'm just here as a spectator, also a fan of the game. I think he really, I get a chance to see him every once in a while now, and he always, speaks highly. I think he's come out 3 or 4 times now, but it's that energy is always kind of fun. Right. He always has a really great moment, but I think makes it he can be a fan. It's not just about him. Like seeing him embrace another time with Jalen Brunson, knowing that he grew up watching Jalen Brunson probably run around as a kid with him.
Right.
Even Bones Highland, being able to see Bones and know that Bones kind of mirrors the type of like killer instinct that Iverson always had. Like I think that's the fun stuff where other people have great moments. And I think to your earlier question, another thing that I really appreciate is that everybody has their own moment. So the memories will forever live on because it has a positive experience with people in different ways that until I talk to everybody, I don't know what their moment is.
Right.
So that's what's always a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's great. These are moments that you can tell your kids, and your kids can tell their kids, and you can tell your grandkids about these moments. And I, like I said, I love the event. I get out when I can, but I made it a point this year because it's year 20, and I knew that we were going to sit down and talk. So I'm going to make it to as many days as possible. I'm definitely going to be there opening day, definitely championship day at worst if I don't make any days in between. But I also want to get in there. I think it's I got the schedule here. Set over the weekend. I want to get there over the weekend. So I'm looking, and now that I'm talking about that, and then you also mentioned a little while back about elevation. I found an article. I told you I did some homework. Found an article from a Temple student a while back, and it makes reference to Khalif Wyatt when he was going into Temple, and it tells a story about him being in the gym, watching and wanting to play. He also mentioned at that particular time, I think he had to be a graduate or in college to play. What brought about the elevation to having some pros come in, and then also once you get done with that, go into now the women's pro and the youth clinics?
So it's always been, well, lightly you have to be post college to play. So it's always been meant to be the same age and skill level that Danny was. So. Okay. And I say that to say, like, when we were first starting off, we were also young. There was a couple of kids still in college. We had a couple really great high school players, I think, jumped in there. I think Malik Wayans played. He snuck in there one time when he was in high school and put on a great show. But it was, as we grew, it was meant to be, we didn't want to get anybody in trouble, so we didn't want to have all the college kids play. And then it was always, like, geared towards, like, all right, what type of player do I believe Danny was and would be in the moment? And that's the type of people that should be, participating in it. So I personally bowed out probably year 4, maybe 3, because I was like, people are looking at it as if Mike's playing, I should play. So It was like, let me get out of the playing standpoint, and I had my own team for a couple of years, and every couple of years somebody has that moment, right? I can't play at that certain level, so we always kind of kept it where it was like, where I thought, and all of us thought, it was like, where would he be, right? Is he a 12-year overseas player right now? Did he get a cup of coffee in the NBA? So like making sure that it also felt like what we were watching on the court was a great resemblance to who he was as a player. So that's how we always used it as a little bit of the barometer where, always had a couple NBA guys, year one, Hakeem Morak was the first guy, and Hakeem probably played the first 16 years maybe. And then Mustafa Shakur played, I think, year 2. He might have played year 1 as well. Sean Singletary was from the neighborhood. Sean's one of the, in my opinion, greatest ACC guards of all time. Sean is from the neighborhood as well. So like being able to get those guys who are, NBA players, it always kept the talent level really, really high. And the Marty Collinses, the Mark Tyndales, when Deontay Christmas got a little bit older. But there was just so much talent up there that we always tried to make sure that the top level of talent, the basketball was really good. So those guys come in and got a competitive run. And a lot of times those guys, the biggest names, didn't win all the games. Like the home team, which was still very good with a Malcolm Ellaby that played at St. Bonaventure and literally lived across the street. Sharif Ray, a Division II All-American, could have easily played overseas for 10 years. Mike Green from Butler, Mike is a great player. Jamar Thomas played Division II, is probably one of the best players in Philadelphia. When you saw him, you had to play. He wasn't you an NBA player, you're going to back down, like he's going to end up at 24 anyway on you. Right.
Yeah, so it's great that you say that. So continuing with this article, I read this quote. I know it was a while back. Expound a little bit on what this quote might mean to you now. Something small has grown to one of the East Coast's most popular summer events.
I like to bump that up a little bit and say that it's grown to be a global event. I think with the internet, obviously, with the way that we treat content, which I think is on the highest scale in the country and the world, I think something's like super small with just a bunch of friends inside of a few block radius that moved to a couple different neighborhoods, that moved to a city, that has moved to a little bit of a larger reach. I think, that quote means a lot from that time as we were looking at it. But I think we're still on that trajectory of we try to get a little bit better every year,
Right.
While also just maintaining the purpose of what we do it for. Making sure that we're still all together, we're still having fun. We're still making sure we're treating players that walk in that door with the utmost appreciation and respect. We're still making sure that Danny's mom is smiling and having a good time. Because just like me and all my friends are there, her and all her friends are there, and they're the backbone of making sure that the staff is being fed every day, that a bunch of other stations are filled with volunteers. So, I think that same nugget, what that means to me is like, even at that moment, we're thinking about the growth. And I think even now, we're still thinking about like, man, like it's really cool to see that so many people are kind of tapped into what we're doing. And Danny's uncle, Randy, who played in the NBA, played overseas for about 16 years, they're retiring his jersey, or they're making like a replica of his jersey. And I know that when I saw the email thread going back and forth between them and Danny's uncle, who's the president of the foundation, he was even mentioning our event, and they were like, yeah, we know, we pay attention to it. So I think just knowing that other people that love basketball, they love summer hoops, they always like looking for content, and like that we're doing right by Danny's name and we're doing right by the city.
Good. Some struggles or speed bumps along the way.
There's a ton of those. Yeah, there's a ton of those. I think doing anything at this level or for this long is always a struggle, right? Do you have sponsors? Do you have a gym? Do you have players? Do you have the elements that you need to play basketball, right? And I think I won't go into all of them on this, but it's I'm not gonna say it's always been a struggle. There's just always been little challenges, and I think whenever you run into a challenge, you find a little bit of a way around it.
Right.
So we're all very resourceful, and I think knowing that was never really thought of an option of failure was always like, we'll figure it out. Like I think that's the I could probably give you 10 things that happen today that's like, well, we'll figure it out. And I think when you go into it with a we'll figure it out mentality, knowing that you got a lot of great people behind all of us that can make sure that things can happen, whatever that might be. It's more, sometimes it's more fun trying to solve those problems than feel like, oh man, we can't do something because of this. And I tell people all the time, the hardest part about any of this stuff is to let failure take control. And I think when we look at it, it's not really an option. It's just, okay, there's a hurdle. How do we get around the hurdle? Block and tackle together, and not being afraid to ask people, but also just know that one no doesn't stop anything.
Right.
So there's always been some fun instances of like, dang, I can't believe that just happened, but we'll figure it out. Like,
right.
We've had teams back out the day of. We've had other just random things that have happened. So knock on wood, the uniforms are showing up tonight. So knock on wood that there's not an issue with the uniforms. But we'll figure it out if anything happens.
I'm sure you will. So the flip side of that, up until now, if you had to pick something, what would you say would be your proudest moment so far?
Man,
if there is one.
Yeah, I don't know if there's just one, man. It's just so many. I remember I was telling I think the paper the other day, when we first left Mallory Playground and went to Arcadia University, Justin Scott was an assistant coach over there. The school was like, man, we love what you guys are doing. We'll give you the gym. It's not a problem. We had no understanding of like what that could look like. So I remember being in a board meeting and, being able to look at it and like, man, I don't know if 100 people are going to show up, 200 people. We've been coming off a couple years and we're just getting too big for the rec center, and we were getting a ton of NBA players. So it was just, this is probably year maybe 6 maybe. It was like we got to just build to the talent that wants to participate, and also give people in the city like a space that they can comfortably watch it, because now people are having kids and you want everybody to have fun. So I think being in a board meeting saying, I don't know who's showing up, maybe 100 people, 200.
Right.
And then opening night, we had about 2,500 people and 4 long lines all the way around Arcadia and filled up all their parking lots. Was like, you know, that was an early put a smile on my face that like, man, we're doing something right and people are embracing it. And I think we ended up with 20 NBA players had played that year, and Evan Turner, who was a second round or the second pick of the draft, played like back-to-back days, played terrible one day. The city let him know he played terrible, and he was in our comments the other day as well. Came back the next day and showed people again like, why am I the best basketball player?
Right.
So I think that was one that put like a really big smile on my face to know that like, wow, like look at as many people know what we're doing. And then, you know, the biggest smile is always like the accomplishment is just knowing that we're still doing it with the same people since day one. And then also, you know, just knowing that like everybody's still having fun together. I think that's what I look at. You know, getting a phone call from Marcus Morris like 2 days ago, and you know everything that he had going on, and just smiling and laughing and knowing that they look forward to coming back up to participate, because it's more about the community feel, not just about who's running it. It's about when you walk in the gym as just a spectator, most of the time you're going to know you're going to run into 100 people that you don't get a chance to see all the time. So I think the community aspect of it is what I take a lot of pride in, you know, walking around and knowing people appreciate and respect what we do.
Yeah, so again, we're big on the kids, and I think it's great that you have the women's pro included. I tell people a lot when I coach, you still coach? I said, no, if I could coach girls, I probably would go back into coaching. And they're like, why? Unbelievably, people just don't seem to understand. I said, I can tell girls to do A, B, and C, and they're going to go do A, B, and C. Some of the young men, I say A, B, and C, they're going to do A, F, G, and K. They're going to do their own thing. And people are like, are you serious? And I said, listen, you watch it, it's different when you're sitting in the stands or as opposed to being on the sideline and being in practice. And it's like you sit at practice or you look and then you say, I didn't tell you that's not what you were supposed to do. So I think that for me, that was one thing that was a little difficult, a little challenging. But for me, I think it enhanced my fun in the game.
Yeah.
You know, because I felt accomplished. And when you see, it felt like to me when I was around the girls, they always seemed to be more or feel and show that they were more accomplished. Not so much accomplished, but they always showed you that we did it. And it's like, thanks, I did it. You know, the guys are like, oh, sometimes I was supposed to do that. Kind of like when I was reffing and I got to a point where I said, I'm only reffing up to 14. And people were like, well, why? You can't. I said, it's a long story. I said, but when you get into that 17, 18, and then you get into unlimited, everybody wants to be a player and a ref. And, you know, I've had times I say, I can take my shirt off and we can switch. You know, I'm not just a ref, I can play too, but we can change shirts. You know, and then they're like, no. So, you know, it's just weird like that. So I think that's also a big thing, a great thing that you added in. And that's why I said I want to be there for that, because I don't think the women's game across the board, in my opinion, gets enough respect that they should.
Yeah, and I think I didn't answer the question when you asked it earlier, so I'll go back to it. So I think part of that was everybody involved in the Rumph is somebody else on the side of the basketball ecosystem. So as we've gone through it, it's like, man, let's add things that make sense, right? Everything that we do, there's some storytelling behind it. There's some thoughtfulness behind like why and how are we going to do it, how are we going to add value while also using the platform to help other people. So like the women's event really started Ashley Jones, who used to be in the gym with us with her dad, who used to open up the rec center for us to make sure that we could do the Rumph Classic, he worked at the playground. She was in the gym as a young kid, knocking down shots until midnight when we're cleaning up. So she had graduated college. So I was like, man, she's finally kind of eligible to play. And, you know, it was like, man, like, all right, let's add a women's component to it. Obviously, the growth of the women's game as a whole. So we had started with just a showcase to say, hey, man, we've got time. The other note of it is we pay for gym time, and we're summer basketball. We're running late all the time.
Right.
So we're like, man, how do we leverage the time that we already have to make sure that we are showing love to the different people around, you know, the Rumph Initiative, the Rumph family, with the Classic, while we have a platform. So when we first did it, it was to make sure that, you know, we can now know that we have a group of girls that are graduating and playing, going on to play. And then it moved on to, man, let's get 4 teams. And let's make sure that each one of those teams are named after somebody else that's significant in the Philly basketball landscape. And then this year, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but we're going to do something with Coach Yolanda Laney, who's one of the greatest women's basketball players of all time. Means a lot to the game of basketball as a whole. Her daughter plays in the WNBA. And what people don't understand is Yolanda used to do workouts at Mallory every Saturday since I was a kid. So the tie-in to what she's meant for the women's game herself and what she's done for her daughter, resonates a lot to us and the playground. So
absolutely.
Being able to also continue that, I think makes a lot of sense. And, Ayanna Howard does a great job coordinating the women's side of it. And Ayanna, is Philadelphia basketball royalty. Her brother, Ashley Howard's got 2 national championships at Villanova. Her dad, Mo Howard, is a North Philly guy, played in the NBA. I believe Mo went to Maryland. Her brother Kai played overseas, 1,000-point college Division I scorer. He's got a couple of Rumph championships himself. So the family is also super integrated in like basketball, and I think, and even the Rumph. So I think being able to do all this stuff also just as easy walk-ins, because like we don't want to just only use the platform for us. We want to make sure that we're doing good by the platform. So that's why we started like the women's pro side, and then we started a women's middle school showcase. Really kind of like going into 10th grade. But another young, woman who we call our niece, Jessie Moses, is top 15 in the country. She's going to be a junior this year at IMG. So when she was going into 9th grade, her and her friends were like, "Oh, we're already late. Let's let them go out there." And we probably have 15 Division I girls playing that game. And we just gave them a little bit of a sprinkle. It's like a 20-minute kind of more of a showcase. Let them have fun and let them integrate. And we call those games, because we do it for boys as well, we call those the Next Bright Star games. So our mission is save the next bright star. When we do those, it's like, these are our next bright stars. Let them be a part of our weekend. And then the same thing with our community day. We have an exclusive thing for, we have 6 Danny Rumph kids basketball teams that play year round out of the Rumph Recreation Center. And for that, it's like, man, let's let the kids engage. And then we bring some other kids in to participate as well. But it's another way for the kids just not become watch and as a spectator, like let them be a part of it. So we just kind of try to make sure that from top to bottom we're adding value to the ecosystem of Philly basketball.
So I want to ask this before we get into some other stuff. If you could speak for Danny right now, what do you think he would say about what you guys are doing and what you guys have done up until this point?
I mean, knowing Danny, he probably have a funny joke on us and be laughing. But I do believe, and we all, I would hope that it would. I believe and I know that it would be a head nod and a smile of him acknowledging, I think, that we're doing right by him. And I think there's a lot of times that he's also put the blessing out there to make sure that we're able to do what we can do. So I think it also answers your earlier question of like the obstacles and stuff. I think a lot of time he's been an angel up there, making sure he's watching over all of us, that, lack of a better description, the ball bounces our way. So we always often look up there and know that he's watching down with us with a smile on his face, and then making sure that he's taking care of all of us. Because there's a lot of us that, he means a lot to, the event means a lot to, that also that his mom means a lot to, and his entire family. So I think that, and that's probably the always question that we ask, is making sure that he feels good about what we're doing, and not getting lost in the basketball, what I call the shiny toy sometimes, and making sure that why we do it is always at the forefront and the mission. Because really, his mom is such a community leader that, I look at like what she does is the foundation. Uncle Mark does a lot of really great work. A lot of other board members do a lot of great work in different areas, but she's one of those moms that people call when they need anything. A new family comes into something, a house burns down, somebody needs to cook a meal for something. She's that phone call like, "Hey, Miss Candy, I need something," and she makes it happen. Like, I have no idea how she has the energy all the time. So I always, I hope and I know that he's down there watching. Like, man, just make sure you take care of, my mom, my family, and make sure she's smiling.
Cool. I like that answer. Real good answer. So, the alumni game, and again, I'm flipping around. Before I get to that,
Hope you watched my video last year. Hopefully.
Yes. I watched the video. I did. And I looked, I just jotted some names down. Just like we mentioned Bones Highland, you mentioned James Harden, PJ Tucker, Tatum was here, Maxey, Jalen Brunson, just to name very few pros who have played in, and let alone our own pros, the Twins, or Mars Twins we've been talking about off and on. Then you flip it and you got guys from Philly that if Philly was an NBA, some of these guys would be right at the top of the list. Wally Hepburns, Vinnie Simpson, Brandon Austin, B.A. Then you can throw in the Gibbons brothers.
Yep.
I remember the Gibbons brothers from 10, 12 playing in Albany, coaching under my uncle. Of course, the Mars twins. And I also saw one of my other favorites that I'm very familiar with from Philly for the alumni game, I guess a few years back, Catino Mobley.
Yep.
So how do the guys feel about coming and participating in that alumni game?
I think it's always been a lot of fun. So it's some guys when they would play, they'd be like, "Man, I need to get to the alumni game. I'm not the regular guys is too much." I remember a funny story about Alvin Williams when he played. He said, "Oh, they really up here hooping. Like I didn't know they were going to be up here really hooping." And this is when he played in the main tournament. It was like, Alvin, you might need to go to the alumni game. So we started that a long time ago to make sure that as guys started aging out of the physical tournament, they still had a part of our weekend, right? So just like the kids stuff is like making sure that the older guys can still get together and have fun. We lost another gentleman this year, Raheem Berry. So this year's game is going to be a little bit of an ode to him, and he was always a staple in playing in the alumni game, and always played at a super high level. So, I think getting to that game is always the fun part of like, man, guys can still play. They're just not running around as much. And personally, I hit about 5 threes last year's game, and Catino Mobley was like, oh, he can really shoot. So he bear hugged me for the final play of the game, which I appreciated that because I'm still like earning a little bit of respect from Catino, but being able to play with Aaron A.O. Owens comes out and plays. Darnell Johnson, Mark Thomas that we talked about, even Jermaine Washington, Duke, always played at a super high level. So I think being able to still get guys together, different levels still, but being able to come out and play in what we call the alumni game is also like a lot of fun because, guys at some point in time don't want to be chasing around a 22-year-old. So.
Absolutely. Like you said, Alvin said, he's like, these guys is really hooping.
Yeah.
So, it shows. And I bet, and if you have had any snippets of conversations, like you mentioned with the Evan Turner, one night didn't play so well, he heard it from the crowd. Second night, he showed him. So I know, and like I said, I've been in some of those gyms, some of the games, and I've seen, and I know the Philly crowd. So what are some of the reactions sometimes for those players that get into those moments, that have that moment where things might not be going as well as they expected, or they get that surprise moment where it's like, I'm the pro.
Yeah.
This is a Philly baller. He D2. Yeah. And then they come down and it's like, wait a minute. That was D2? And then the crowd is like, so it's already like that shock of this guy is just, in their minds, so to speak, this is a playground, D2 college legend. I'm a pro, NBA pro. And he just did that. And then I'm listening and it's like, now I got this whole gym on me, but it's the wrong way.
Yeah. So I think that to that point, and I'm dealing with one of those issues that we talked about, but I'm gonna find a solution over here. I think there's a kid named Mark. Mark, they call him 50.
I remember 50.
So he went back and forth with Jason Tatum, and he went to Rosemont College, a Division III kid. Mark plays with the best of them. He is one of the best. He is one of the he had a whole summer where I think he scored 50 points every game. That's why he got the nickname Mr. 50. Or Mark 50. So like I remember he was on Lou Williams' team when he was fresh out of college. They were moving the ball around, and then he was telling somebody, he was like, where you go to school at? I think somebody said something, Rosemont, right by Nova. Lou Williams thought he went to Villanova. and didn't blink an eye at, because he was playing at that level of like, man, and that's one of the other things of being able to give guys like that not the option, but the opportunity that they take and run with it. And then Mark went on and had a ton of really great Rumph games, and it was great to see him go back and forth. I think that him and Jason Tatum went back and forth almost about 3 or 4 plays. But that stuff will live in infamy of like him, Tatum coming back and him walking right down, crowd goes up, and him knocking a bunch of shots down. And it doesn't matter what division you play that. It's like when you get inside those lines inside of Philadelphia, it's a lot of reasons why guys don't necessarily go to the schools that they could have played at. And I think time in, time out, they've proven it. Like,
you better bring it, because if not, it's going to get exposed on the court, and you will definitely hear about it. And it's kind of exaggerated now with so much social media. It could blow up and go viral like in a matter of seconds, a matter of minutes, and you like not even know about it until it's already viral. So yeah, that's one of the things that I also love about Philly basketball, is the fact that, and like another part of the article where you said you think it's the nature of who we are as kids in Philly. We always have a chip on our shoulder. We're a show me city. Anybody can get on the court with anybody, and there's some magic there.
Yeah, I think that is I still stand by that. I think when we get doing anything in life, especially basketball and sports, is like, we don't care about you came from this, you came from that. You have to prove something first, and there's somebody looking to show you why they deserve the opportunity that you might have had. Or it's just like everything starts at equal, and it's time to play, and you got to earn that respect on the court. So, I think when Bobby Portis came and played, Bobby was going back and forth with guys. I still remember vividly walking Mo Spates in, and I love Mo Spates because Mo Spates would come every day and play. He wasn't on the Sixers. He came back and won a championship, made sure he stayed ingrained with Philly for like a whole weekend. But him walking into the gym, and the gym filled up, and he ducked his head. He was like, all right, come on, we up here playing. Caught the ball, and Wayne Marshall went to work on Mo Spates. And he was like, who is this guy? Wayne Marshall, 6'10", big body, played at Temple, still playing professionally, I believe, in Japan. Deserved every bit of an NBA contract at some point in time. Like Mo, and then Mo was like, I can't guard this guy. So those type of moments of, man, he's in the NBA. Oh, give me the ball. Let me see what he's got. And then people from Philly, we go right at people, and the crowd was right at you too. It's time to show me why you are who you say you are. And I think that's a lot of fun about who we are. I mean, it's not like, oh, I saw him play on TV. It's like, okay, well, now you're here. Right. What are we going to do now? This ain't TV. What are we going to do now?
Right, this ain't TV.
Yeah. So that's a lot of fun about those pieces to it.
Absolutely. So, how did G Funny get incorporated as the on-court MC?
How did he get to be the on-court MC? So, G has been around since early years. I think I got a photo of him playing in the first or second Rumph as well. So he's one of us to the core. Like, we've been running around since Sunny Hill, and great player, great shooter himself. I think I didn't know that he was really good at that. So he was doing some online skits. He was getting a lot of notoriety. Him and his son do a good job, and he was letting his the comedic side of him really kind of show to the world. And I happened to be down 27th in Clearfield. There was a phenomenal league called the MNBL, run by a gentleman named Dawu Morris, and Guy was doing the play-by-play, and I was like, man, you're really good at that. Like, hey, we can give you a chance to do the run. Now, for those that know a little bit of my background, I'm an AM1 mixtape tour guy. I've done street ball tours for almost 15 years. I've been around the best on-court MCs around. Duke Tango, Booby Smooth. Duke does a phenomenal job. Booby does a great job. I started basketball leagues in 6 different cities: New York, Atlanta, Philly, Indianapolis, and LA. So each one of those event places, whether it was the guys in New York, they had a really great guy, MC in DC. I forget my man's name in Chicago, and then there's a gentleman named Mouthpiece in LA.
Mm-hmm.
So every city, I've been around all the guys, and after I heard Yee do it, I'm like, Yee, like you're one of the best. Like you have a real chance to be a phenomenal MC, and you just got to work on it a little bit, and then look at it because like you've got the voice, you've got the creativeness, you've got the energy, and you know how to bring a game up and down. So, you know, the rest is history. As soon as we gave him the microphone, he took the ball and ran with it, and he's been a tremendous addition to, you know, the Rumph Classic of like how do you also provide that play-by-play color like right in your face.
Yeah, that's great. You know, I was just curious, you know, that because like I said, I've been a couple times and he's been there, and I've seen the skits, seen him at other gyms, other events. I've seen him at stand stuff, at groovy stuff all the time. So let me ask you, with the Danny Rumph, how is the relationship with some of the other leagues around the city? Like I've seen the stuff you have with your teams that play out of Mallory, the young teams that play out of Mallory in the chosen league. But as far as like the pro leagues, the pro-am and the alumni league, relationships there, no issues. I'm sure it's no issues, but what I mean is like those guys come and support. I know you all support each other. Like I said, it's still all in that same basketball circle. We're all still together.
Yeah, I think like, look, Philly basketball is a tight-knit community. I'm sure we all compete with each other in some capacity. But Novar's doing a great job with the Brotherly Love League. Fareed's doing an amazing job with the Alumni League. I think Raheem Thompson does an amazing job with the Chosen League. My Lonnie Young guys do a great job. You know, Mooney does a great job in South Philly. You know, me and Raheem started something called Legendary Summer Hoops Month, this coalition. We try to make sure we give a little bit of support across the city. I think we support like 30 different organizations with some funding to make sure that, you know, as we're across the kind of board is like just making sure that like, can we elevate the entire city in basketball? So we would try to keep teams in almost every league that we could. You know, we had a youth team and a pro team in the Brotherly Love Pro-Am for I think the first 4 years that they were around. We just weren't able to do it this year. But one of the other, Sharif Hanford that started, he probably plays in every different league in the city. So we try our best to make sure that we show love to everybody, you know, connect the dots for everybody and support as we can. And, you know, we also try to do certain things and not get in other leagues kind of way, right? So our promo schedule is kind of around let other people do what they're going to do because they're playing before us. But yeah, we try to do our best job to make sure that it's one kind of cohesive city and it doesn't ever feel like I'm telling you I'm better than you and you're telling me, because I think that none of that stuff is always, you know, it's healthy outside of like healthy competition and everybody just trying to do the best that they can do to run an event league.
Absolutely. So that's pretty much all the questions. So it was a great conversation. I enjoyed the dialogue again. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to come in and sit with me and talk basketball. So for a couple minutes before I go, what I also like to do when I do these interviews, I like to flip it a little bit. And I turn myself into the interviewee and my guest becomes the interviewer. If there are any questions that you have for me, let them rip.
What was your favorite